Welcome back to On Second Thought. It is the new year. We're in January. So today we're going to talk about...
Money.
Money.
I'm just going to sit here because this is your topic.
Money.
This is totally your
topic.
topic.
What are you talking about?
I love you.
I love you too. All right. Welcome to On Second Thought podcast. So glad that you're here with me today, Mrs. Stephanie Perdue. I'm thankful that you're here. This is the second episode of our second season. You told me that you have friends all across the country discovering our podcast and asking you.
I did not tell you that.
You did. Across the country.
One person
is a friend.
Yes.
All across the country.
I have
right?
a friend.
Not in Georgia, but across the country.
Correct.
Halfway across the country. People are finding it, and that's really neat. We're in our second season of On Second Thought. That should be a special thing since it's the second season of On Second Thought from Second Baptist Church. This is why we need a video podcast.
You say that every time. You're going to be banned from that sentence.
On Second Thought?
Nope. This is why we need a video podcast.
Oh, well, is that how I sound? Wow.
I almost said banned words for this podcast. We need a video.
Okay. All right. Next. We are so grateful that you've joined us for the podcast. Thanks to so many of you who have been very encouraging, and your kind words, your support really are a blessing, since everyone knows my love language is...
words of affirmation.
Yes.
This is why I'm laughing.
Why?
Because you take the time to say thank you to all of the people. And I'm like, they're either going to listen or not. Let's just move on. But you're like, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. I'm like, yeah.
They need to know that I appreciate all the kind words.
100%.
And all the compliments and people.
And I break out in sweats when somebody mentions
Yes,
the podcast.
when someone says it, it's kind of like when I tell you look pretty today, you're like, shut up. So when somebody says, I love your podcast, you want to say, not shut up, because you can't say that in our house. But you want to be like, no, that's not me. That's somebody else.
I actually say thank you.
Do you mean it?
I don't really know. Whoa, hey, why are we throwing all of the trash out today?
Well, so it is the new year. We're in January, and we talked about goals. We talked about resolutions, a word for the year. Let's get really practical today, okay? Because no matter what your word for the year is, last year, like at the end of the year, you just had Christmas. And if you're like 99% of people, Christmas is expensive. There's a lot of people will put Christmas on a credit card and then have to pay it off the rest of the year. People go into debt. So it's like the joy of the season becomes the pain and reality of having to pay off Christmas. So we're going to talk about...
It's not just Christmas. Some people went into Christmas with...
Yeah, with debt and all that already. Anyway. So today we're going to talk about...
Money.
Money.
I'm just going to sit here because this is your topic.
Money.
This is totally your topic.
What are you talking about? We do great when it comes to money and finances. You did tell me one time, though, if you die, I don't know any of the passwords to anything.
Okay, so let's explain that, because some people would probably think that that's super weird.
Oh, okay.
Like,
you don't want any of the passwords to anything.
I don't. Well, okay.
I'm not hiding money from you.
I think we still have to go way back. Because you're highly organized when it comes to... I am
very OCD when it comes to finances.
Yes, you are. You are the person that takes care of all of the finances and know where every penny is going, has gone, will go, unless I...
Quicken is my BFF.
Don't tell you.
Unless you don't tell me.
I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I don't.
And the truth is, right now, I don't want you to download Venmo.
Yes.
So you're like, there's a code for Venmo. And I'm like, nope, I don't want you to have that code. I don't even want you to have Venmo right now on
but
our
it's
account.
not because you don't want me to have it. It sounds like you're super controlling. It's just you don't want to have to deal with the input of my expenditures into your Quicken account.
Or, what is this? What is that? What was this for? Why is that there?
So it's easier if I say, I need for you to send some money, because then you can immediately take care of it.
And then in the notes in
calculate it.
Venmo, I can say, Stephanie said so. That's the way I do when I send money to people.
Yes.
Okay, I have a feeling this is going to be more than just one podcast, because there's so much that comes into play in a marriage relationship or a family when you're talking about money. So we could talk about how a husband and wife communicate about money, how we communicate about that, because it does sound like I have you locked in a room
Like,
somewhere and
people
never
don't
let you spend
understand.
anything. You don't really want that. I would say back up 30,000 foot view. What I tell couples is there are spenders and there are savers. Naturally, there's spenders and savers. Two spenders marry, it's going to be really fun till you go bankrupt, right? And it's just kind of like psh, crash and burn. To savers marry, you got to make sure that you're generous, that you're, yes, be frugal, but not that you're not greedy. A spender and a saver marry, a lot of times there can be conflict around money. And I think any married couple listening to this has probably had conversations. Some people may have arguments, disagreements about money because it is a big deal. And a lot of times couples don't agree on money. And so one of the things I deal with in premarital counseling with couples is we're going to put a lot of this on the front end and talk about money, develop a budget, have a conversation about this, because a lot of couples don't do that. And then they start fighting. And then what I've seen is couples fight, not just about money, they fight with money. So in the middle of it, they're fighting, and she's like, well, I bought this $5,000 thing because he bought that $4,000 thing. And it becomes this, you're spending yourself into an oblivion because you can't agree on money. And so I don't want to make Dave Ramsey mad, but we like a lot of what Dave Ramsey says, but we don't do I think sometimes Dave Ramsey believes he wrote half the Bible because it's like, do exactly what I say. I love what he says. And I think for the majority of Americans, he's got some really good stuff.
Well, if you think about, so many people grow up in households where money's not discussed.
Yeah.
They're never taught how to handle money, and then they get married, and two people that do not understand money still will not understand money, even though they're married.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's another thing. It's like, how do you intentionally teach your kids about money? Because really, there are roughly, I'm not going to limit this, but like 3 things you can do with money. You can give, you can spend, you can save. And I know somebody's going to comment like, no, you can waste it. You can invest it. Well, in the grand scheme of things, all of it's going to kind of come down to those 3 categories, right? So how do we give generously? How do we save consistently? And how do we spend wisely? Oh, that's a sermon right there. Do you like those 3 points?
I do.
They all end in LY?
Yes.
Makes a Baptist preacher happy.
So which one are you talking about today?
Oh my gosh. So, why don't we, well, no, I was going to say we'll start with giving, but then that's like way too much preacher in me, right? So preacher wants to start with giving here in January. So I'm going to let you pick, since you're the preacher's wife. Which one should we start with? Why don't we start with, which one do you want to start with?
I was going to say giving, but then you're like, not giving.
Oh,
what do
since
you
you're
want?
not the preacher, you got to pick it.
And then you said, which one do you want? And then you said, let me think. Which one should we do? And I'm like, I don't know who's picking today.
Okay, let's talk about giving.
Okay.
Because in spiritual gifts inventories, for you and for me, typically people will ask me my spiritual gift, is it this, is it that? And they won't guess this one, because for me, my number one gift is giving. And I think yours is really high up there.
I got
too.
a high, yeah.
Your number one gift is being awesome. And then like maybe number 2 is giving. That's a spiritual gift, right?
Okay.
Awesomeness, fruit of the Spirit.
Giving.
And so clearly there are biblical mandates for giving. But then those biblical mandates, like for us, those are just the starting place, right? Like we have decided to go above and beyond. So the Bible says you give a tithe. Okay. Malachi chapter 3. And then Jesus is talking to the Pharisees in the New Testament. He commends the tithe, but then says you ought to do, more than just the law, but go above and beyond that. Paul talks about grace giving in the New Testament. And so there are so many ways to be able to give above and beyond what God has called us to do even. Like, so for instance, the standards, the minimums are clear. Tithe is the starting point, not the finish line. It's the floor, not the ceiling, right? But then beyond that, we've decided in our marriage there are other places that we want to invest in, whether it's, hey, we got 5 kids of our own, but we got 4 kids around the world with Compassion International. And don't you want to buy them a chicken this year for Christmas, and all the things that you do for Compassion International? And then FCA's had a big impact in our lives and our family. There are various other ministries locally and internationally that we'll support. But one of the things that we have said early on is we want to be supportive of our local church. That's where it starts. Scripture indicates that, right? And that's where it starts. So that's got to be the primary source of where we give, why we give, is to obey God, to advance the ministry at the local church. The Bible says, bring the tithe to the storehouse. That's a picture of the local church. And that's never been a question for us.
It hasn't. Well, and I think because neither one of us have ever questioned that, we are naturally giving. It's just kind of like, it's written and do it.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, I wonder why people decide not to give. Is it because they don't have money, so they don't want to give because they're hanging on to what they do have? You probably have had more counseling conversations than I have with this, because it's not something either one of us struggled with. So it's never been a conversation we've had to walk through. Yeah,
for me, I think it was always an issue of obedience.
Right.
We're just going to do that. Even when I was a youth pastor in seminary and we were getting married and you were a brand new teacher, we weren't making a ton of money.
No. It's never about the amount. It's just about...
I think that's one reason God doesn't give an amount. Because I think if God gave an amount, it would be really difficult for some people. I can't afford that. And then really easy for others, right? So a percentage is different than an amount. If you're barely making it, is 10% is the start. If you're a multi-billionaire, 10%, right? At least, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that there are so many reasons people use to say, well, I can't do that, or I don't want to do that. And I think I've always tried to take the attitude when it comes to giving, not that, oh, I have to do this. Mm-hmm. But I've always felt like I get to do this. I get to invest in the kingdom. I get to invest in the local church, God's plan A for reaching the world with the gospel. There's no plan B. That's exciting for me. And I know people are like, oh, it's easy for you. You're a pastor. You get paid because people tithe. I'm just telling you, before I was ever a pastor, before I was ever in ministry, I'm giving. I'm tithing, because that is, it's about my relationship with God. I think some people feel like I don't have the money to give.
Correct.
And I know that they are really walking through some difficult challenges. And
some people give to the church or keep my lights on.
Yeah.
Well, I understand, and we can talk about this later when we start saving, but I'm sure there are a lot of things people aren't willing to give up to keep their lights on, but they are willing to not give to the church.
Right. I think it is sometimes a question of priority. Sometimes it's now this is going to get super spiritual, because it sounds really...
You are super spiritual.
No, not me. Not me. I sometimes I ask the question, you think you can't give because you don't have enough money to pay your bills. Maybe you don't have enough money to pay your bills because you're not giving as God has required and designed. Because the Bible tells us, as we give generously and faithfully, He'll bless us. I have always firmly believed, that God can do better with the 10% me giving to Him than I can do with 100%. I think He can make that 90% go farther than 100% would go. And maybe heaven will tell the story of all the times where God's like, hey, I'm gonna save them from that financial difficulty or whatever, because they've been faithful. This is what the Bible says in Malachi, I'm going to rebuke the devourer. I'm going to open the windows of heaven. Try me, test me in this and see, prove me. This is the only time in the Bible God says, prove it. Prove it. Test me and watch. And I'm just going to say, I know that this is me and you talking, but I'm just going to say that every time we've been able to give faithfully and generously, God's proven himself faithful.
Okay.
He's true to his
So
word.
I'm switching on you.
Okay.
What does that look like practically?
Okay.
So say someone listens to this and they say, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start giving.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're not on a budget, what do you do? First, you're going to have to get on a budget.
Right.
And we'll talk about that in another episode. But I think you need to act like you've never, it's kind of like taxes. Like you never got it. You can just send it on to the church. And 2020 really changed a lot of that for our church.
How you give.
How
Yeah.
you can give. Like you can literally
give online
and you can take it straight out.
You can give via text. Just text the phrase "My Second Family," all one word, to the number 73256.
There you go.
I say that's on Sundays.
You
right?
do. You do. And make it the first thing you do, not the last thing or what's left over. Make it the first thing you do. Give, and then start your budget.
Give God what's right, not what's left.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not sure how to finish that sentence. I feel like that's a preacher term.
It is. But I do think there's a biblical principle there, first fruits, right?
Yes.
So the people of God in the Old Testament would bring their very best, very first, right? And I hate taxes, so I don't want to view my giving as taxes, but I totally understand what you're saying about it's not yours. It doesn't belong to you, right? This percentage belongs to the U.S. government, and I feel like they take way more than they're supposed to, but whatever.
And we can't argue with that because they're taking it regardless.
That's right. And then if you don't give, guess what? You're in trouble. But this belongs to God, and it does require discipline. It requires budgeting. Practically, here, people may not know what tithing is, so we might need to deal with that a little bit because
if you do math like I do, you will always tithe.
Tell everybody when you
No, I'm not.
No, I want you to tell everybody when you got saved.
No, when I first got saved, I did math really bad, so I always gave way more than I was supposed to.
So
we don't have to completely throw me under the bus.
No, this is so cute. I think it's adorable.
So cute. You're stupid.
No, I love it because when we got married, you're like, this is how I figure out my tithe. And I'm like, wow, because what you would do is you would take your salary. Let's just pretend your salary is $30,000. You would take your salary and you would divide it by 10.
Yes.
Right? A tenth of 30. Right?
I don't really remember, but yes, something
so
like that.
Basically, instead of dividing by, you were giving extra because you would divide by 10 and then give that per month.
Yes.
So like I make 3,000, so I'm dividing by 10, and you were given that per month. That was actually greater than a tenth. I'm an overachiever. It was more like you added 2 extra months to your tithe, which was, I love that. Because we kind of
You're like, what kind of math is that? I was like, it's good math.
It's good math when it comes to tithing. God was happy with it.
It's zeros, bunch of zeros. So,
I think that was, but in the end, yeah, you were given more than a tithe, which we've decided to do consistently since we've been married. I mean, maybe early on, we're starting at 10%, but we've tried to go from 10 to 11. So 11.
Where's that 10% come from?
Yeah. So, what is a tithe, right? So if you believe the Bible, which I do, and there's a lot of people that argue.
No, you don't have. Yeah.
I mean, I have to say this because somebody's going to come and be like, you're so legalistic when it comes to tithing. There's other people who say the tithe is only the Old Testament, it's not the New Testament. And let me just say, there are people that love Jesus on both sides of this issue. I believe a tithe is a standard and the starting place for any follower of Jesus. If you go back and look at the Old Testament, they would actually give more than 10%. In the New Testament, Paul says, give according to grace. Okay, which is better, grace or the law, right? So 10% should just be the start. And Malachi teaches that you bring a tithe of the first fruits to the storehouse. So that's 10% of the gross to the local church. And some people's mouths just went, they just dropped, right? Oh my goodness, that 10%.
So it's not 10% of your net.
Right. It's not 10% after taxes. I've had people tell me, well, I paid my bills, I paid my mortgage, paid my taxes, bought everything I needed, and I had X left over, and I gave God 10% of that. that is not a tithe. Like some people think just dropping $20 in the offering is a tithe because that's given to the Lord. Well, that's what, no, the word tithe means tenth. Mm-hmm. So it's a start, right? And I'm a firm believer that the tithe goes to the local New Testament church.
You know what I think?
I would love to know what you think.
I think that we just lost all of our followers with this podcast.
They might not like this one very much.
No one's listening next week.
They're going to quit. They're like, on second thought,
if they
no
are
more.
still listening right now, they are completely going another direction.
Yeah, no more. On second thought, no more.
Yes.
That's okay. I think that it's important for people to be challenged in this way and to listen to what the Word of God says. And so to be willing to give. And then as you give, the Bible talks about offerings you give over and above the tithe, right? So if we take a offering for Lottie Moon and Christmas or Annie Armstrong around Easter, or if we give to Compassion International or to FCA or other organizations, that's over and above the tithe. I'm not being like, well, I gave this here, so I got to deduct that. And in the end, I just want to live generously. I just want to, I want to be a generous person.
So let's talk about how do we implement this with our kids? How do we teach them growing up? Since we're in the giving, like we have taught our kids to give.
Absolutely. These days, I feel like I help them fill out their pink envelopes.
Oh, stop. Okay, so I will talk about this.
No. The world needs to know. The world needs to know.
I will explain it. So our church still sends envelopes to your home if you would like to give financially via check or cash. You can put your name on, or it's already printed on there.
Oh, yeah.
On the outside.
They are mailed to you.
And when they are young, it even has a little, joke on it or something about the Bible.
It's a question about the Bible.
Yes. So anyway, ever since our kids were small, ever since we've been back, even when we were in Tennessee, they got $1 every week from Jim, and they put their dollar in their envelope, and they gave it when we used to pass the offering plate.
Yeah.
They would give. We have not done that in a few years. So they would give every week. They gave their $1. And as the years have gone on, Jim still puts $1 in their envelopes. And a lot of times we found the envelopes shoved in their Bible bags.
A lot of times.
And that makes him not so happy.
Or on the floor of your vehicle.
Yeah, that burns a hole in his soul.
I'm like, I have worked to prepare this for you. I'm providing this for you.
Yes.
And now you're not even, they don't pass the offering plate anymore. I don't know what to do with it.
The boxes as you exit.
I said,
all
go.
The exits.
And then we'll pull in. Sometimes I'm like, you walk your tail in right now and put it in the box.
Yes.
Because I don't want them to grow up and be like, oh, Lord, I just forgot to give.
Yes. So they have been taught to give. And so what we've taught them to do is, besides the $1, any birthday, any extra gifts,
Christmas money,
working, they have been taught to tithe off of the money in which they received.
That's right.
And so they can put their own money in an envelope, and they do actually give that money.
Do they give that money? So just the money that I give them, they don't give. But the money that they get. So, okay.
I'm not responsible for them.
You know what we need to start doing is just taking their own money and putting them in the offering envelopes for
when the boys got jobs, they actually started doing the automatic stuff online.
And then when they quit the job, they forgot. They're like, I'm almost out of money. Oh, no.
I've been given to the church,
No refunds on tithes. You can't get a refund.
So they the boys were doing it automatically, which is what I was trying to say earlier. If you have a hard time remembering to write a check, to have a hard time letting go of the check, then put it as an automatic deduction.
Yeah, online you can give ACH,
yes,
and it'll just be automatic.
It's automatic. You've got half of every other bill automatic. Just make your tithe automatic.
Yeah,
that's my shameless plug for you.
secondfamily.church/give. How about that?
That sounds right. Like I've been sitting here listening to him say that number for I don't know how many years you've been saying that number.
What is the number?
I have no idea.
What does it start with?
I have no idea. 478.
No, it just. Oh, you mean
the area code's 478.
Oh, I thought you meant like text.
It's
this text 7.
Yeah.
No. That's that text number is different.
See,
than
743. 734. I have no idea. I mean, all of my kids know it by heart because as soon as
there's
you
a number
start
you
to
can
say,
text welcome and text respond 47832. 402402.
Yeah. I have
So
I have no
32456.
idea.
Now you got me messed up.
Don't say it again.
I don't even know what
you
it is.
You said it earlier, and I'm sure that was right.
Well,
it sounded right.
73256 is the one you text to. So text My Second Family, all one word, to the number 73256. And you can
That's
give.
great. See, this is why you're in charge of all of our money. I mean, I just set that bad boy up automatically.
I think because, and to circle back and we'll be done, we're going to do some rapid fire. Why do I do all that? Because I am pretty much a finance nerd. I have everything back to when I started with a checking account in Quicken back in the day.
When you were
when
wee
I
little
was,
lad?
Yes. When I was just starting. And you were very willing to say, hey, look, I want you to handle this. Now, I look at
I was
couples.
taught some major money principles growing up. I was not taught the very specific things that you were taught.
What's this category? What's this category?
Yeah, I
What's
didn't keep
that
up with all of that. I just made sure I paid my bills, paid all.
Spend less than you make.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to spend less than you make and
save.
Yes. I was taught those, but I didn't care about where it went.
Right.
Like you do.
Well, Dave Ramsey says, tell your money where to go or you'll wonder where it went.
I did not.
Yeah. You didn't even wonder.
I didn't even wonder. Didn't cross my mind.
Okay, so we ran everybody off talking about money today,
Good.
talking about tithing. So that's out of the way, though. Now we'll talk about saving and spending and all those things in the next episode or two. And maybe even a way for couples to communicate about money because it's one of the landmines in relationships. It can be kind of a scary thing for folks because money's tight. It gets tense. And so...
It does.
But yeah, you did great.
Sure.
You did a great job today.
Oh, thanks. Do we have rapid fire questions today?
We do.
Oh, Miss Hannah's back.
And they're all about money.
Oh, boy.
Great.
Okay. First one. And I have 2 trivia questions
Ooh.
about money. Switching it up. Okay, but the first one. Would you rather get $1 million right now or get $100,000 a year for the next 10 years?
Ooh. I'd rather have $1 million right now because you can invest it and earn interest, and it'll be more than $100,000 over the next 10 years.
See, he's a math nerd. I would be like, give me the 100,000.
If you reinvest dividends and compound interest.
These are the reasons why we keep him around. I'd be like, give me the 100,000. I don't know. Sounds like a good plan.
You can make more off the $1 million now than you could off 100,000 now, and then anyway.
But you get it every 10 years.
You get 100,000
for 10 years.
a year for 10 years.
Yeah.
No, I'd rather have $1 million now because you can take that $1 million and make it into more.
Okay.
That's what.
That's what you said. Perfect.
Would you rather pay for everything in $1 bills for the rest of your life or have your face on the $1 bill?
Oh, wow. I'd rather have my face on a $1 bill than have to pay for everything with a dollar bill. You'd probably rather pay with a dollar bill than have your face on it. Yeah.
I just have so many funny things.
Which one of your
right
faces would go on the $1 bill?
I know. Which one? This
What
one?
is the funny thing you're thinking of?
Nothing.
I want to hear it.
No, you don't. I don't really know. I'm going to let Jim. Yeah, that's a good answer. We'll put Jim's face on a dollar bill.
Here's 2 trivia questions about money. Who is on the $10 bill? Do you know?
Is it Jackson?
That's the 20.
Yeah. I just let all of my history teachers down.
Hold on.
$10 bill.
Lincoln is the 5. I don't know.
It's Alexander Hamilton.
Oh my gosh! I had no idea who was on the $10 bill.
I knew I was wrong, but I didn't know.
I have
who.
failed in life. I have no idea.
Okay.
You don't really see 10.
This one's kind of hard. What is the lifespan of a $100 bill?
Ooh.
I really didn't think any of these were easy. So for this one to be hard, the lifespan of a $100 bill?
2 or 3 years.
100 years.
9 years.
Oh, wow. Longer than I thought.
Okay. And this is taken from a meme that's been going around. So you have one phone call. If the person does not answer the phone, you get $1 million. Who are you calling?
Ooh. I'm calling Stephanie during one of her exercise classes.
They do not answer? Oh, I would probably...
Call Jake early in the morning.
No, I'd call Judd.
Your 17-year-old?
I mean, he might. Yeah, he may answer. I don't know. But if he knew we were about to win $1 million, he'd
He would-
never answer that phone. Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one.
Those are all the fun money questions I have.
Oh, thanks.
Mm.
Thank you. Who would you call?
I call you during exercise.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I said.
I know. I was just thinking beyond me.
So if I had to call somebody that I knew wouldn't answer, it might be one of my sisters.
That's funny.
One of my sisters.
Yeah. Judd's phone's always on Do Not Disturb, so I just assumed he wouldn't answer.
So hopefully we didn't run everybody off
Maybe
talking
not.
about giving today. And we'll be back next week for episode 3 of season 2 of On Second Thought. As always, you can visit our website, secondfamily.church/thoughts, and you can submit some questions that you might have for us. Inquiring minds want to know. They got a lot of questions for you, Stephanie.
I'm sure they do.
And everybody's asking for a video
No, they're not.
podcast.
That's a banned
Yes.
word.
God bless y'all. Thank you so much. So glad to be here with you today.
I'm happy to be here.
Yay.
Yay.